Hello, everyone, and welcome to our next episode of Unprocessed Sugar. I'm Dr. David Sugar, your host, and thank you so much for joining me. Today, we're going to talk about toxins in the house and poison on your plate, where we will dive deep into that exact subject. What's in our homes that's toxic to our health and well-being? Most of us aren't even aware of it. I know I wasn't. And poison on our plate. The United States food source is lacking in many departments, and we're going to dive into things that are in our food from the beginning, in the fields, to the grocery store, to our preparation, and our eating them. But again, thank you very much for joining me. I hope you'll get a lot out of this episode. I know I sure have, as I've done reading and research on these topics over time. I've been shocked, I've been surprised, I've been mad, I've been frustrated, but mostly I feel empowered. I feel like I have the knowledge, the information I need to do something about this. And I want to make that point really clear. I'm not here to just tell you what's wrong with everything and what's wrong with the system and what we're doing that is incorrect. I'm going to give you alternatives, give you solutions, things that I'm doing in my life and my family's life to try to correct some of these things and how to move forward. So in our home, there are many items that we have that are toxic to us, from our cleaning products to our cookware to air fresheners, our detergents, our soaps, things like that, our pesticides that we use. But first, I want to talk about our cleaning products. I mean, that sounds kind of obvious. Cleaning products are chemicals, but these very often have toxic aspects to them. They have chlorine in them, they have ammonia in them, they have fragrances that sometimes can be an irritant. And these can lead to a whole host of problems like respiratory irritation and illness, skin burns and irritation, asthma, and there's even some thought that some of these can be endocrine disruptors and cause hormone imbalance. And the hormone disruptor is something that you're going to hear a lot about, not just from me, but I think going forward, as this is getting more and more attention, that are in our environment, whether it be food or things that we use, that are what some people think are the leading cause of the decreasing birth rate in our country and the increasing rise of the infertility rate amongst young people. But the cleaning products that I have in my home, at first I tried making some things because you can do a lot with vinegar and water. Vinegar is an amazing cleansing agent. Maybe a little lemon if you want to have some freshener in there. But also baking soda. Baking soda you can add to that if you need to get some really tough spots out. But baking soda is a wonderful agent to also clean with. Some people use it to brush their teeth, as a matter of fact. And there's a lot of plant-based cleaning products. And that's what we use in my house. There's a company called Attitude. I'm not necessarily endorsing them, but that's what I use. I use their soap. We use their surface cleaners. We use their laundry soap, their dish soap. It's what we use to wash our vegetables and our fruits that we get from the grocery store. So we've been very happy with that. I think the main thing is just do something. It can be small, start small, and I think that is also a point I want to make. I was not afraid, but intimidated to get started on all this. It's so overwhelming. It's massive. However, like eating an elephant, one bite at a time. Just start with something small. Change your spray cleaner to vinegar and water, and just, there you go. 5 minutes, not even, and try that out. Maybe once a week, try to swap something out. But just start with something small, and that'll hopefully be the motivation to keep going. Our cookware, I want to talk about our cookware, non-stick cookware in particular. The chemical that's used as a fluoride base to it, and it has gotten a lot of attention. I don't want to say any particular company's name, but these pans and skillets that are non-stick have toxic substances in them. And when they're heated to certain temperatures, those chemicals can leach out and get into our food. If you have a surface that's scratched, it can do it even more readily and at lower temperature. So what should we use? Well, there are three main things you can use. We use ceramic in our house, ceramic pots and pans. I will say they scratch easily, and some people aren't that big of a fan because they feel they're bad for the environment in the sense that their lifespan may not be the greatest because they do scratch a little more easily and they end up in the landfill. But you can also use stainless steel. A little hard to clean on a regular basis, but that's what they use in most professional kitchens and commercial kitchens is stainless steel skillets and pots and pans. And of course, being from the South, can't get away from the old cast iron skillet. I still remember my mom cooking fried chicken in the cast iron skillet. They are heavy, and they do take a little elbow grease to clean, but once you season them, they will sear a steak like nothing else. So again, start small. Get your if you use a particular skillet a lot, just go get the one skillet. Just replace that. You don't have to necessarily go out and buy an entire set of pots and pans right off the bat. One last thing about the nonstick cookware. This is where you hear the forever chemicals used. That's what's in the skillets and pots and pans, the nonstick cookware. The PFAs, they're called, and those are the forever chemicals. They do not break down, and they build up. So you get them in your body, and they accumulate. You get them in the environment, they build up, and they accumulate. That's why they call them forever chemicals. The next item are air fresheners. These are quite often very toxic. They have what's called phthalates and formaldehyde. Most of us have heard of formaldehyde. And there's links to skin problems, respiratory problems because you're inhaling it, allergies, and there's also some thoughts there may be some carcinogenic effects linked to phthalates and formaldehyde exposure. So what can we do instead? Well, essential oil diffusers work real well if you want to have a fragrance in your home or your office. What we do at our house, my wife takes a pot and pan and she will simmer herbs and spices, a cinnamon stick, some orange in there. That's awesome, especially at the holidays. It really makes it feel a little more holiday-like. There are air purifier plants, like a snake plant, that actually help purify the air, kind of liven the place up a little bit, purify your air as well, as also just air filters in general. And then you can make homemade air fresheners. We're going to have a link in the description with a little recipe on how to make a little home air freshener with cotton balls and some things like that. It's pretty simple to make, and it works remarkably well. I know someone who even takes them, make them little tiny mason jars and puts them in the vent work of their home, and it really diffuses throughout the whole house, and it's very nice. So these are great alternatives. Takes a little time, a little effort, but what is your health worth, right? Next, a subject that's very, very near and dear to my heart because I cringe every time I see someone microwaving something in plastic. That's probably the worst thing you can do. Plastics in general are not good. We've been hearing more and more about this as far as its accumulation in our body. We've been hearing about it for a while as far as its accumulation in the ocean. And obviously that's a big environmental problem. But as far as our bodies and our health is concerned, they have found plastic, microplastics, nanoplastics, in every part of our body. They're in men's testicles. There's a thought that that's a big part of the decreasing fertility rate in America. They are an endocrine disruptor. So they will leach from the bottle you have into your drink. If you have them in the microwave, my goodness, that just makes me cringe, like I said. Please don't microwave any plastic, and don't microwave food in the plastic. If I can stress one thing, that would be it. But these have been linked to problems with obesity, as I mentioned, hormone disruptors, so reproductive problems, diabetes, and developmental problems in children. So alternatives, glass jars, I mentioned mason jars earlier. There are you can get containers, glass containers. We have glass containers that have a bamboo lid on them at home. And instead of using plastic Ziploc bags, there are little bags made out of silicone, which is completely safe to have against your food. They're not cheap, but you wash them out and reuse them. You don't throw them away. So it's a little bit of an investment up front, but they'll last for a long time. I think the company says a year. But if you take good care of them, wash them out, dry them properly, who knows how long they'll last. But like I said, a little bit of an investment up front, but you're not buying bags of throwaway disposable Ziplocs anymore. And you're not adding to the environment. So you're kind of killing two birds with one stone on that one. So again, no microwave. Thank you. Our laundry detergent, believe it or not, our laundry detergent can be harmful to us. Some of the fragrances they put in them, we were mentioning earlier about the air fresheners, and they have substances in them that make the clothing soft. Well, that stays on the clothing. It does not leave them. It leaves a little residue on them. That's what gives them this brightness. That's what gives them the softness. There's optical enhancers, I think is the industry term they use for different fabric softeners. But it obviously can irritate your skin. It's on your clothes. It's on your bed sheets. It gets into our wastewater. Our wastewater is getting more and more contaminated by not only things like that, but things that people are flushing down the toilet, the different chemicals we've been talking about getting sent down the drain. But there's links to all kinds of skin irritation and rashes, allergies, of course. Once again, hormone disruptors. There's some thoughts that this has an effect on fertility rates as well. And then, as I mentioned, it has an aquatic toxicity, meaning it gets into our water supply. And especially in a place like Florida, we're very, very keen on our water supply, which isn't that great. But water is a big deal here in Florida, so let's try to keep it as clean as possible. So our water system, try to be cognizant of what you're flushing down your toilet. We shouldn't be flushing leftover medications down the toilet, for sure. There's studies out there that look at municipalities' water supplies, and you name it, they find it in there. I grew up in Tampa, and when I was younger, you could take a glass, clear glass, fill it with tap water, and look at it, and it had particulate matter floating around in it. It was lime or calcium deposits, but nonetheless, that always creeped me out. So from the time I was young, I knew something wasn't quite right here. So what can you do about this? Well, as I was mentioning earlier, there are plant-based detergents that we use. I've only learned this one recently. There are wool dryer balls that you can put in a dryer with your clothing, and it will soften your clothing. It'll do it naturally. Now, if you are going to make this switch, what you're going to want to do is run a rinse cycle with your washing machine with some vinegar, because you want to get all the stuff that's still left over, the residue, any buildup. You want to get all that out. So you want to do a rinse cycle with a cup of vinegar, and that'll help out. So again, vinegar is very helpful. Indoor pesticides. That seems like a pretty obvious one, right? I mean, it's killing an insect, so how could they be good for us? But there are sprayed usually, but they'll get into the air. They'll leave a residue on dust particles. They'll leave a residue in the air, and we inhale that. It gets on our skin, and it can cause all kinds of problems. It's been linked to neurologic disorders. Some of the bug sprays, that's exactly how they kill the roach, is by a neurotoxin for the roach. So I don't want that around me either. Headaches and increased cancer risks have been associated with home pesticides as well. So how about some alternatives? Well, okay, get your pen and paper for this one. How about diatomaceous earth? You get it from the nurseries. It's used in landscaping a lot, or people use it in their gardens. It's helpful for your plants, but it will help to ward off ants. Peppermint oil is great for spiders in particular, but other insects as well. Little sticky traps, and boric acid. I know it sounds kind of scary, but boric acid is harmless to us, but you can use that for targeted areas. You know you've got a problem over in this one part of the house, you can put some baited traps or put some boric acid powder down. You just want to make sure it's not where a pet or a little child can get to. So that is it for the toxins in the house. Give you a little something to think about. Hopefully a few action items that you won't find too overwhelming. And like I said, baby steps, one bite at a time, or as I always say, chip away, just chip away. So poisons on our plate, that's kind of a scary topic. And with the MAHA movement, Make America Healthy Again, there's a lot more media attention. Our consciousness has been raised. People are a lot more aware of the fact that we've got a problem with the food source in this country. There are chemicals in our food, thousands actually, that in Europe and the rest of the world are banned. Not looked down upon, but outright banned. But yet they're in our food here in the United States of America. And it really comes down to one reason: it's for profit. There are artificial dyes in Fruit Loops in America, and there are no artificial dyes in Fruit Loops in Europe. Isn't that interesting? So the companies have a product for Americans, compromises our health, they make more money. Europe, they won't allow them to do that. In fact, in Europe, there has to be a warning label on the food product if there's an artificial coloring, artificial dye in the food. And in Norway and Austria, they're outright banned. No label will do. They just can't use them, period. Starting at the beginning, though, when our food's being grown, we are the #1 consumer in the world of glyphosate. Glyphosate is an herbicide that's used in large amounts here in the United States of America. We use about 50% of the world's glyphosate, I believe. What I find very interesting is that it's produced predominantly by a Chinese company, and it's against the law in China. So they're happy to sell it to us and let us eat it, but they won't let it be used in their own country, on their own people. So then the third aspect of the problems with our food is our nutritional depletion. Monocropping and the chemical overuse, over time, the amount of nutrients, minerals, and elements that are in our food has diminished considerably. Compared to 50, 60 years ago, there are certain vitamins and nutrients that are down by up to 38%. So we're not getting the nutrients we need, we're getting things we don't need, we're getting things that could harm us. Just a couple examples of some of these chemicals. Titanium dioxide. Doesn't sound too healthy, does it? It's in candy, Skittles and Starburst predominantly, and it's been known to be a genotoxin. So anything that's going to manipulate your genes, be harmful to your genes, can lead to health problems and increases your cancer risk. Potassium bromide as well. Potassium bromide is used in bread, and it helps to rise the bread up, gives it a different texture. So try to keep away from those things. Food dyes have been getting a lot of attention lately. And I mentioned just a moment ago, there are even food dyes in baby food. What the heck does the baby care about what color the food is, right? I don't understand. Why would they put them in baby food? And there has been an association of food dyes with ADHD rates. So read your labels. Food dye, red dye number 3 was recently made against the law, made outlawed in America. I think they've got a time frame by which it has to be off the shelves. They made it so that you were not allowed to use it in cosmetics, I think over 30 years ago. So for 30 years, they said, nope, don't put it on your skin, but go ahead and eat it. These are the people who are supposed to be looking out for us. To me, that says a lot, that there's no concern for our well-being here. So how can all these chemicals get put into our food? Well, because there's little to no oversight by the FDA. A company can develop a chemical, and they say it's safe, and they can put it into the food, and they do not need to have FDA approval first. That's how our system in America works. It's only after there's a problem that they then start to look at it and address it. So you have to be careful of even healthy foods, though, because number one, the nutritional value being depleted, but there's a lot of loopholes that allow companies to label things as organic and still have us at risk for being exposed to things that you don't want to be exposed to. So I think the main thing here is to read the labels. Make sure you read the labels. If it's got a name you can't pronounce, if it's got a number on it, then you don't want to use it. Stay away from those things. That's a pretty easy, clear-cut distinction right there to make. So as I was saying, read the labels. But in addition to reading the labels, shop for organic. But as I was saying, be careful. Just make sure you know where your organic's coming from and how it's being processed. Look for companies that have reformulated. They have no longer used recombinant DNA generated food sources or the feed that goes into the cow that makes the milk for the ice cream. That sounds kind of convoluted, but they'll let you know that. They'll put it on the label. Like Ben & Jerry's, for example, puts on their label they don't have any recombinant technology behind their foods. That's one other option. Grow your own. It takes a little work. I think my tomatoes now only cost about $17 each. So I've spent a lot of money. I got my garden going. I have only 50 tomatoes out of it. So on a per tomato average, it's a little expensive. But I'm getting better. I'm getting better at it. Just takes some practice, but it's a lot of fun. I'm learning how to do this. It's a way to decompress when I come home from work, get a little exercise, bending, squatting, stooping. But you don't need a lot of room. And again, start small. Start an herb box on your windowsill in your kitchen. Little simple, easy thing to do. Herbs are incredibly easy to grow. A lot of them just keep replenishing. They don't have to start over like most, like your fruit crops and so forth, your vegetable crops. So just put it in the window planter. Grow some dill. Grow some oregano. We deserve food that's nutritious and not going to do us harm. Preservatives. Be on the lookout for preservatives in your food. DHA, DHT. I mean, they're going to have some chemical-sounding names to them. And these are put in your foods for obvious reasons, to prolong the shelf life. I get that, but not if they're going to be at the expense of my health. So, again, read labels, keep an eye out for that. What are your alternatives? Fresh food, frozen foods, look for natural preservatives like vitamin E. There's not a lot of food sources out there that are using a whole lot of that, but it's something you should be aware of. And on a closing note with regard to preservatives, these would be in all your processed meat. Your deli meats, for the most part, are going to have it. Anything canned meats, you're going to have it. There are some things. I know we buy a particular type of tuna fish that has nothing in it, doesn't even have water or oil in it, has no preservatives at all, but has a pretty short shelf life. But if you saw how they made ham, everybody makes the joke about you don't want to know what's in the sausage. Watch a video of how ham is made. I always thought it was a ham because it kind of looks like meat. It looks like muscle when you're looking at it. It's kind of gross. I don't know that I'll eat deli ham ever again after seeing that. And sausage gets a bad rap. Sausage made by a butcher is excellent. It's got your cuts of meat, some spices, and fat, and that's it. But it's when you buy the stuff that's made in a factory 1,000 miles away that is full of the preservatives. So now on the high fructose corn syrup, which is in all of our sodas, a lot of our candies have tons of high fructose corn syrup in there. And is directly linked to the obesity epidemic in our country. And it also has a link to liver damage. But try to aim for less than 5 grams of added sugar per serving for whatever it is you're eating at the time. 5 grams of added sugar. So if you were to eat some strawberries, they have no added sugar, but they've got a lot of natural sugar in them. But we're talking about the added sugar in this case. So what are some alternatives? Honey is great. Maple syrup. Dates. I have used dates to sweeten my iced tea. I love eating dates just by themselves, but you can actually buy date paste and you can use that as your sweetener for anything and everything. There's ratios of how much it would be comparable to a cup of sugar, but I know people who use that to make their cookies and to make their treats for home snacks. So that's a really great alternative as opposed to just using more and more cane sugar. MSG, monosodium glutamate. This is what you get a headache from. It's used quite a bit in Asian food. So if you've ever gone out to the Asian buffet and have that pounding headache afterwards, it's usually because it was full of MSG, monosodium glutamate, which is used to give things flavor. It has kind of a little bit of a salty type of taste to it, but it's in chips, and it's really, you'd be amazed at how many things it's in. So it's hidden quite often by being called a natural flavor sometimes. Not the MSG, but some of the other things that give flavor to food. So what are some alternatives to MSG? Well, your herbs, of course, and other spices. Umami, which comes from mushrooms and seaweed, that's also a really good spice. So next is artificial sweeteners, aspartame and sucralose. I remember, I'm old enough to remember the days of saccharin, the little tiny saccharin pills. And when they were feeding a ton of it to the rats got cancer. So that's gone away. But I remember my grandparents, we'd be at the dinner and they'd take out their little pill container with their saccharin and they'd sweeten up their coffee with it. This is back in the 70s. But yeah, you want to stay away from artificial sweeteners. So kind of going back to the dates and things like that. But monk fruit is really good. Stevia is also a good alternative as well. But be careful of diet drinks because diet drinks can quite often disrupt your gut biome. The gut biome is the name given for the bacteria that live in our gut. Some of you probably are aware, but a lot of people aren't, that our gut's full of bacteria. There's good bacteria and bad bacteria. Billions and billions of bacteria. And good bacteria digest our food, they break it down, we can absorb it then. The bad bacteria are there all the time, but if they overgrow, and outnumber the good bacteria, that's when you start getting cramping and bloating and diarrhea and problems like that. So some of these artificial sweeteners will promote the growth of the bad bacteria. So be careful of those. OSE would be how things would end, like sucralose. So you want to keep an eye on your labels for that. I keep coming back to the labels. Nitrites and nitrates are also used a lot in processed meat, hot dogs, bacon. Love some bacon, but those things are packed full of nitrites, which are known to be carcinogens. So you want to be cautious of processed meats, Again, hot dogs and bacon, which is a tough one to give up. But if you just look, find a local butcher, and you can buy healthy versions of both of those. You can buy healthy versions of roast beef. Our local butcher that we go to, Alpine Steakhouse, give Matt a shout out. He cooks a roast beef and slices it up just like you'd get from Publix. So it's not injected with anything. The beef is from a regenerative farm. If you can get it that way, it would be great. I don't know if Matt's is from there or not, but I'll have to ask him. But those are just some easy things you can do. Doesn't take a whole lot of effort, just a little planning. Our last subject is trans fats. So we're going to do a whole episode on fats and oils. And I have a hard time sometimes keeping it straight. Monounsaturated, polyunsaturated. What's the difference between saturated and unsaturated? Well, the main thing for this episode to keep in mind, you don't want trans fats ever. It's fake. They're fake. That's when margarine was invented. Around in the 1970s, there was a huge push about animal fats being so bad and horrible for you. So they made fake butter, margarine. It's all trans fat. And trans fats are in baked goods. They're everywhere. You're hard to get away from them. But they absolutely raise your risk of cardiovascular disease and of getting a heart attack. So you want to really shoot for 0 grams of trans fats in your food. So remember, you got your mono, you got your polys, which are okay. We'll go into that a little more later. And you're at your trans fats. Make sure you put the fats part in there. Some alternatives for those. Olive oil is good. Butter in moderation, and avocado oil. I know a lot of people like to cook with avocado oil. I believe it has a higher flash point, a burn point, so you can cook things a little hotter in it. I just recently got some sweet potato chips that are cooked in avocado oil. They're pretty good, pretty good. I mean, they're kind of hard to beat. Can't eat just one chips, but you know what? They're also going to keep me healthier. So it's a pretty good trade-off, I think. So that covers it for toxins in the house and poisons on the plate. I really appreciate you joining me, and I hope you got something out of this. Again, I know I did in my learning about this over time and then getting ready for this episode. It helped to refresh some of this, and I'm not perfect at all this, and I don't do all of this, but I'm learning it. And a year ago, I did none of this. But as I'm learning this, and I keep referencing the journey that I'm on, and I want you to come along with me, I'm making these changes little by little. So it's not about being perfect, and don't be hard on yourself. Just one thing at a time. Like I say, chip away, chip away. Every little change you make is one step closer to a healthier you, better well-being, better mental health, a better life. So practice, not perfection, okay? So until next time, please stay sweet and stay unprocessed. Thank you very much for joining me. Hi, I'm Dr. David Sugar, a doctor here in Florida, and thank you for joining us on our podcast. A quick note, this is for educational and general information purposes only. Listening to this podcast does not constitute a doctor-patient relationship, and please consult with your own healthcare provider before making any changes to your own care. If you are having a medical emergency, please call 911 or your local emergency number. Any items, tests, medications that we talk about or discuss are for information purposes only and are not an endorsement. Once again, thank you for joining us, and please see the website for the full disclosure and waiver. Thank you very much.